Welcome everybody to Eden Fractal meeting number 64. I'm here. Pleasure to be with Perry and Rosmari and Tadas and Gnome and Space Good Joe and Marco and Jorge. We are going to give a quick presentation going to into the breakout room shortly. We got a lot of stuff going on today. If anyone would like to say hello or share a quick few words, then feel free to do so. Hello, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. And yeah, we got some beautiful waves, beautiful waves. So yeah, as always, feel free to jump in if you have any comments or you want to say anything to everybody out there watching. Hope you're all having a fine day. I'll just give a very quick high-level overview of where we're at now, eden.fractal.com, where you can learn more about what we're doing. Rosmari put out a nice message showing our recent videos. We're meeting in Zoom right now. We might talk about that. And there's also recent videos that have been published. Of course, you can go to eden.fractal.com/videos and see all sorts of cool videos that we've been publishing from our recent meetings. And we just published the 62nd meeting this week on the Eden Creators YouTube channel, youtube.com/@EdenCreators. And we're publishing the 63rd one where we talked about Jitsi promptly as well. We're about to go play, well, we're going to go into breaker rooms, and after that, we're going to play Cagendas, social coordination game where we can create agendas together and so forth. Everybody can make topics on the Eden Fractal Consortium page. I believe that I made 4 topics. There's a lot to discuss today, so we'll see how much we get to discuss. And I don't think anybody else made it. If anybody else did, feel free to let me know and we can discuss that for sure. I'm just going to refresh these two to see if people voted or how much people voted. Updating the Msig is one topic, and I see somebody voted for that right now. And also one person voted with 1 Eden for the Jitsi project and for Optimism as well. And topics game, those are the 4 topics on the agenda. I encourage if anybody wants to prioritize those topics, then please do vote on them. Right now, Jitsi project and updating the Msig are tied. And we will discuss that when we go back to the community room after the breakout rooms. There's also the topics page over here where there's more details about each of these. Although actually, I don't know if it's been refreshed or reloaded. So maybe I'll refresh that a little bit, but basically we'll do it there. And with that, we're going to go into the breakout rooms for Eden plus Fractal and hope that everybody has an amazing time. Sounds good, everybody. One other thing too that we discussed was like Jitsi. Right now, everybody who participated, who's here, I think got Jitsi to work. But I suppose everybody's cool with just doing this over Zoom now. We'll discuss more about Jitsi after the breakout rooms. That's a good plan, right? Okay. I'll take Tadas's thumbs up there and Perry's thumbs up as a good go ahead, and I'll open the breakout rooms now.
Hi, Tadas. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Marco.
Hey.
How y'all doing? I think Jorge should be joining us shortly too. Well, I guess it's just the 3 of us right now, so we can wait to see if Jorge joins, and if you guys have anything on your mind. I also have to get together my presentation too, so I'll start doing that, but happy to discuss whatever. If you guys would like to, if you guys want to start talking about the topics, or whatever else on your mind, then happy to hear it.
Yeah, I just voted on Msig topic. I think that for Jitsi, it seems to me that the next course of action is clear. Try to investigate the problems, and hopefully, if new people, if it doesn't work for new people, hopefully we have the same problems and we try to fix it for them.
Great point. Well, yeah, thank you very much for following up with Eric and Pascal, and I agree. That makes sense. Do you have any thoughts about the best course of action for the Msig, Tadas or Marco? I'm thinking that updating the Msig, automated Msig, is probably the right choice at this time. And I asked Vlad a few different questions about whether we should approve the old ones he made because those are so alive, those proposals, or if we should configure, or if we should like do the new software he's building or make new proposals. If it's sufficiently tested to do the owner permissions. The owner permissions are actually never updated from the previous proposal. It still is the original 6 people on there, and Patrick wants to be off of there, so it probably makes sense to update that now. But that so far in the Alien Worlds Fractal, I think it's only been tested for the active permission, and then also how the thresholds would be set up too. I'd be curious if you have thoughts with this, Tadas. Of course, we can also get more into it later because now I see Jorge has joined us.
Yeah, maybe let's discuss that later. I don't have like obvious answer that I would be sure of.
Cool. Sounds great. Well, happy to discuss it later. Looking forward to it. Welcome, Jorge. Thanks for joining us. And would anybody like to...
What? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. It's my turn?
It can be anybody's term. So we were mostly waiting for you, and we are kind of just talking about the Msig and other stuff. So if you want to kick us off, Jorge, and share what you've been up to, then feel free. Or if somebody else wants to go first, then that is cool too.
Well, if someone else can go first. Right now on my cell phone and sound is not so good. I'm trying to get from the computer.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. It does sound pretty good, by the way. But yeah, being a computer will be nice, better setup there. I could go first, but I'm also not super ready. So Das or Marco, do you guys want to go first?
Yeah, I just wanted to say if Marco or Jorge, if one of you want to learn how to use Fractalgram to administer the consensus there, you can do so. I can guide you through it. It just if you want to do it, you can let me know right now so that you get ready.
I want to do it. I just need a few minutes, like 5 minutes at least.
Okay, so by the time we cover our contributions, maybe then you'll be ready. And okay.
Okay.
Okay, and regarding the contributions, I guess I can go. Yeah, did not prepare much for this, but yeah, my main contribution is again I'm working on firmament. Who, for those who don't already know, I'm currently working on a deliverable to demonstrate creating a DAO on one EVM chain and then syncing that same DAO on other chains. So it would create something that I call a cross-chain DAO or a portable DAO, a DAO that is not coupled to any single chain. Yeah, so the long-term goal is also to create tools for people to reach consensus without depending on any kind of L1 chain. But right now I'm focusing first on this aspect on using specific L1 chains and then being able to migrate between them. Yeah, I also participated in a couple of discussions in eden.fractal Telegram. I tried to get feedback from CAC and Patrick and Pascal regarding why we are not participating anymore. But else I'm also working on researching a couple of interesting ideas. Like for example, one upgrade to Eden plus fractal process that might be relevant to Eden, especially. But it's early to say anything. Well, I could write a post about it, but I'm currently busy with firmament, so maybe later. I think that's it from me. Who wants to go next?
Sounds great. Thank you very much, Tadas. Really excited about that. I could go next if you'd like. I'm mostly prepared. Unless Marco wants to go next, then you'd be very welcome to, Marco.
Sure. You guys hear me?
Yep.
Right, so we got Leap 5.0 coming out. With the idea of IBC, and, you know, the thing that excites me most, and I guess excites a lot of people most, is IBC outside the Orion Antelope. That's captivated my attention. I still write the newsletter. I still cover the node operators. Actually, the node operators roundtable election, while preparation for 5.0 is a big deal, getting the word out, app developers, and just the different types of BPs, validators, the things that are coming. They have mentioned they enjoy brainstorming about what's possible, and maybe the reason for that is all the changes coming with 5.0. But I just throw that out there because that's what I'm committed to most, and with EOS respect. By the way, you guys are all invited to join EOS respect. It's just a monthly voting thing we go through. If you're elected, you get funds kind of like eating some more and stuff like that. But you do got to do a campaign. It's expanding the website and stuff like that. We are inviting people. So the newsletter, the node operators thing, and I integrate that into other things. So here I'm, talking, bringing up some of the just the culture of the community. I kind of shot away from EVM a little bit. Just that I think 5.0 is kind of a big deal. IBC is. But I mean, there's investment in stuff. I'm sure you guys heard of stuff. There is stuff going on, but it's not on pause. But I think it's just kind of like steps for things. As more things get released, so there's a few documents that are kind of in the works, but just haven't been released yet. We'll probably email will be like playing catch up. Shift in focus has always been the thing since EVM, but now with there seems to be a shift in focus in governance, and I don't know if it's because of or just coincides with Sybase mentioning its user interface coming out soon. So I keep that in mind. So I've kind of appreciated governance participation, but I hear Alien always picking things up. And I know Wax wants to do IBC. I just don't know if they've made any progress to them. The one that really seems to be is, of course, UX, because no one has space, but Telos looks like he wants to leverage US. And Tadas was mentioning of the DAO that's cross-chain, independent of chains, is that next level of blockchain where you're not committed to one, you use it for what it's good for. So all those things interrelate in probably more ways than you can see. How does that play out for the eden.fractal specifically? It's still listed on the newsletter, and there's still a lot to be developed. I wonder about hypha DAO. I'd like to get into it, but every time I do, there's just so much noise over there. I like that Nish mentioned it. It's in his mind. But I don't know what's going to be first. I don't think hypha DAO is going to be one of the first things to play a role for the governance things here on EOS. And the new governance mechanism with 5.0 is not going to be released with 5.0, but there's going to be underlying code that's prepared for it, because the community will ultimately have to decide on issuing that over. But its implications are pretty big, because it would divide the responsibilities for VPs, validators, and things like that. Anybody doing so, it won't just be VPs doing everything. So for DAOs and things, maybe what Vlads is doing, it's cross-chain, maybe that has more implications. And it's supposed to make everything easier. I haven't really looked deep into the work yet, but there's also IDE from the EF So tying all that into the eden fractal, there's got to be some benefits there for anybody who's got their own project.
Just by the way, Marco, sometimes there's like a scratching sound. I feel like maybe you're moving something on the table. It's kind of loud and difficult to hear you when there's that scratching sound.
Yeah, probably still on sound card. But I'll pass up the mic. I think we still have plenty of time. But yeah, it's a lot to consider, and I really like pursuing alien worlds just because they're so active. They have a product, and itself is a social network, or reaches out to social networks. I'm surprised the bees haven't got involved. They seem like they're okay. So somewhere in there, it looks like there's a big powerhouse ahead of. Anyway, I'll let it go. The eden fractal is the one that's got the tools that animals probably have to reinvent or slow it down. So I still like this place taking the lead in a lot of things. We've committed from the beginning and seeing what works and what better than other things. And plus, products came out of it. People kind of don't recognize that.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Marco. The end was particularly difficult to hear you. Those last like two lines. I don't know if you want to reiterate those last two sentences, but everything else I heard pretty well. So thank you.
What was the last thing you heard?
Just those last things you said. You said like Eden Fractal is a place where we're building tools and we're building products, or something like that. But I didn't really hear that part.
People don't recognize that. There's mention of the tools that came out of here, but they don't give the Eden Fractal credit for it. That makes sense.
Yep, that makes sense, and I've noticed that too in
Right.
some places.
I know there's been independent projects that came out of here, and still the Eden Fractal should get credit for giving birth to that inspiration. This is a common thing in business expansion that we kind of neglect the growth wisdom. Let's just call it wisdom, and that means you end up going through the whole lesson over again. And we can avoid that by keeping this truth in mind.
Yep, good points. Thank you very much, Marco. I see Jorge's camera is now maybe turning on. Jorge, if you got to your computer, would you like to go next, or would you like me to go next?
I think I can go next, but my computer is frozen. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay, yeah. Let's see. My computer just okay. I'll go on if you guys can't see me. It doesn't really make much difference. Just let me know. I see you all frozen. It looks like my computer is. Let me know if you are hearing me.
Oh, we can hear you well. If you did want, then I can go first, Jorge, and you could try to troubleshoot
Yeah,
for a couple
yeah.
minutes,
Please go first.
Okay, sure thing. Okay, cool. I just need to remember to also sign sign the actions to start the elect button too, because I haven't yet done that. But I have it up my window next to me, so I'll remember after I give my presentation, and then step by step we're getting our tech in order. Okay, so I will share my screen and share some of the stuff I've been up to here at Eden Fractal. So before I showed some of the topics I proposed, and a lot of my time over the past week has just been in getting just been responding to new things that have been happening. So for example, Patrick and CSC said that they wanted to be removing the Msig promptly, so I put up this topic to update the Msig, as well as a message where I can share more details. Perhaps I should actually organize this as such. I've been using the Notion topics database feature more often, so I just took some screenshots of some stuff they said there and some of the responses I shared, as well as asking Vlad about the next steps. Oh, and now we can see Jorge. Great to see you, Jorge. Glad to hear that you got your camera to work. And yeah, so I was working on that and figured just the next best steps for the Msig for the Eden Fractal. There's also the talk about Jitsi as well, and I hosted the Alien Worlds Fractal meeting this week. I've been volunteering to do that for the past month or so, and we're discussing the next steps for that. and we tried Jitsi, but it didn't work out for everybody. So we did another test of that, and then I wrote this message here about what the issues were, and I created a Notion project as well, where it's about exploring improvements to Jitsi, and I worked on curating this also into like an Eden Fractal topics or an Eden Fractal projects database too. I think it could be. I've been using this Notion.so/projects. Notion has a really interesting projects feature that really helps in a lot of ways, and so I've been just experimenting with this, and so I made a project where we can organize that. There's also a really interesting all called Charmverse, which works on EVM that I've been looking to, which might be able to do similar things. But yeah, figuring the best next steps for Jitsi, and then Optimism. I'll move that over in a second because I think that's a really exciting topic that I've been spending a lot of my time on this week and over the past couple of weeks now. And I also proposed the topics game too. I've just been continuing to evolve that and then update this topics database. I renamed it to topics after some feedback from Jorge. We still have the pictures right now, but yeah, basically I've just been adding some of the information over here into the topics database and still continuing to grow this Eden Fractal site. Perry joined, and so now we're building out the site kind of one by one, add like a welcome material, but still in early stages. And then yeah, also I helped Rosmari produce the well, she did most of the prediction for like the video editing and stuff like that, but I just gave some feedback. She's getting really good thumbnails. Jorge, we did make this one exploring topics because that was the theme of it, but taking your feedback into account, calling it just topics, keeping it simple. But for this video we just decided to keep up with the topics theme because that's what we discussed in the first meeting. And then I worked to, I don't know why it's so zoomed in right now, work to make a nice like introduction how communities optimize meetings. We pioneer fractal Cagendas game with topic databases for real-time coordination, always making just like a really nice headliner so that when we share it in the chats, people can get a really great high-level overview. I mentioned the optimism topic, and this is where I've been spending a lot of my time. I shared this and promoted it at the Alien Worlds Fractal meeting this week, and then I also proposed a topic last week. But yeah, Optimism, for anybody who isn't aware, it is a layer 2 of Ethereum, and it's a really interesting community. Really, they're all about funding public goods and improving cooperation and governance and so forth. So it's highly aligned, and so I've been doing a lot of research into this. I spoke with the Tadas and Vlad this week about next steps for technical development, and I'm really excited about the Tadas's next steps with firmament. I've been looking into grants in the Optimism ecosystem, and then I've also been looking, preparing one of my main projects right now is to prepare for their round retro PGF round 3. This is a funding round where they're giving away to public goods what's approximately worth like $50 million or so worth of OP tokens. I'm still totally understanding this, but a very large amount of funding going towards public goods. And so I think this can be like a really great opportunity for everybody in the community. And I'm working to rally a community around it, /maybe start an Optimism Fractal, maybe have Eden Fractal cooperate more with Optimism. I think there's a really good opportunity there. So I've been doing a lot of research. Started to curate a page at edencareers.com/optimism, as well as several projects where there's like a link for a presentation that I can share at this week's meeting if we get to it, and lots more details here. It's still pretty messy and we have to organize it better, but there's just so much going on there that's really exciting, and so I'm going to be working to curate that and help everybody understand it here at Eden Fractal, because I think it could be an excellent help for all of us. I also proposed the Msigs, and I had to do some extra work just to figure out the Msigs this week. I did the past 4, and I'm going to be doing the action for starting the election. So I'm running most of the technical infrastructure right now from a week-to-week basis to keep Eden Fractal running on an operational level. And then also, as I said before, I hosted the Alien Worlds Fractal meeting as well on Monday, and several people are really enjoying that, so that's cool to see. And then I also sent out the rewards finally from the Eden Fractal anniversary. I figured out how to do it all in one automated message, so I was able to use a blocks.io application where you sent out all of them. I did a bunch of calculations and stuff like that. I'm also working on an article, and I worked on with Rosmari to craft this message about announcing it, basically. I also attended the Aquadac meeting, continuing to support Douglas, who's hosting the Aquadac and experiment with fractal cooperation there. And afterwards, I spoke with Space Wrangler Joe for a while, who's active in the Upland community, and I gave him lots of information to help him start up an Upland/Alien Worlds Fractal. He's very interested in doing so, and Upland is one of the biggest games on EOS or Web3 really, so really exciting opportunity there, and happy to help out Joe with that and give him a bunch of resources. And then also I participated in a couple of the Eden on EOS meetings, such as the one where we'll probably hear from Jorge, I suppose. Jorge and Vlad submitted a draft proposal to the Eden on EOS chief delegates for building Eden Fractal tools with Eden on EOS and empowering the working groups that they have there. I so far I just curated James Smart's response there, but I'll curate more. This is just kind of a project that I shared just so I can remember it. But yeah, basically I was just there in support and shared edencreators.com/tools and some other articles and offered to help. And then also I've been looking a lot into just how to like build a better portfolio and productize. Like as Mark was talking, we have a lot of products and we need to market it well. And so when we go to Optimism and when we go to different communities, I'm working on basically like a really nicely set up portfolio and products and services and stuff like that that we can offer. And so I've been looking into different templates to display that as well as possible. I suppose that's a good summary for right now, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And now I see Jorge was trying to get Fractalgram working too in the chat, so thanks for that. And Jorge, if you're ready, then I can pass it on to you for your summary of what you've done to.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'll share my screen too. But before that, I brought to the Telegram channel the issue of these members that are absent, and they have been absent for quite a while already. For example, Pascal, I think I haven't seen him since our birthday celebration, but it was just recently that we noticed it. And me bringing this up has added some feedback to this community that hopefully will bring us to a better position. Of course, this has been a work by several people, including Tadas, who has been also focusing on this, and Dan. Aside that, I'll share my screen too. Right here. Right here. Where is it? Well, it seems I lost it. Well, as Dan mentioned before, I have passed this proposal to the. I don't know where I put it. Perhaps here. Perhaps here. Yeah, I passed this proposal to the Eden community, to the working groups, the tech working group. This is a proposal done in collaboration with Vlad. We are aiming to bring fractal tools to the whole Eden community. Yeah, this is the one. I'll share the link. You guys might be interested. So it's a proposal thought to improve this current fractal process, like take everything we have learned from us and bring it to Eden. So this will be a second iteration. We will take all the tools, of course, we have here and bring them to the Eden community, and with several improvements, mainly done by Vlad. One of the things I am noticing now is, well, several things. For example, the need of a dynamic multi-sig that we have already mentioned, but also the possibility of, for example, Vlad mentioned yesterday that given that respect is a non-transferable token, then it doesn't even have to be a token. It can just be a score registered on the blockchain. And if that is just a number there, then we can also, for example, if someone doesn't sign the multi-sig when he's supposed to, we can also penalize his respect, his allocated score, his allocated respect, and a whole bunch of possibilities opens there. Another thing I'm seeing is that we have an issue with overachievers. Sorry, Dan, to take you as an example, but I've noticed that many people that is consistently ranked in lowest levels tend to resent their consistency. And this is not something specific to Dan, but it also happened to Daniel Larimer in the Genesis Fractal. People began to quit the Genesis Fractal and actually formed this fractal because they were tired of seeing Daniel Larimer all the time in the top spot. So this brings some ideas to me, and it makes perfect sense. If you, for example, you are in first grade and you are put in a room where also people with kids of fifth grade, of course you will feel frustrated. So this brings me to the idea of maybe having several fractal levels, like different fractals for different levels, so that people can go like don't have to participate in all levels. Like if you are very highly ranked during 3 consecutive seasons in the first level, then you automatically go to the next level, and so that you are always competing with people who are in similar level of contribution. So this is my big contribution for this week. We spent with Vlad like the whole week working on this proposal. As I said, I put the link on the chat, and I'll stop sharing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jorge. Really appreciate all you're doing. Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments for anybody? If not, then I can ask. I have a question or two that I'm curious to ask Das. Okay, maybe I'll go ahead then. No, this is really awesome. So, yeah, well, Tadas, I wanted to ask you. I know we spoke like 2 or 3 days ago about plans with your expected timeline. When I think you said within the next week or two, you're aiming to have the deliverable of the first version. And I don't know if I missed it, if you gave an update there. But I'm wondering if you have any further update at this point about when you think that deliverable might be for EVM compatibility. Just yesterday, 2 days ago, I found a couple different opportunities. One, in Optimism, there is a demo day that happens every 2 weeks. It happens, I think, on like the 31st or so. That might be a good place to demonstrate the first version of firmament, as well as we could perhaps introduce what we're doing here to the Optimism community there. And then secondly, there's an opportunity for funding that ends, I believe, on the 30th. There's also the retro PGF and other funding opportunities as well too. But there's several, and I can show you the links later. But there's several. They just announced the round 14, and now they're on round 15. And in round 14, there was lots of projects that received anywhere between like $3 to $150,000 worth of OP tokens, and that's happening in like 9 days, something like that. I know it's kind of a rush, but perhaps we could get like a quick proposal together or something like that. If you think it might be ready for that or the demo day. So I'm just curious what you think about those, as well as if you think that we might have something to share by that time, or if it'd be just better to wait for a longer time.
Let's talk later maybe about it. Maybe let's try to reach consensus first, and then or we can have another meeting to talk about it.
Okay, sounds good. You're right. I probably should have limited it just to specific asking about contributions, but I was excited, I guess. Okay, happy to talk about it later then. Does anybody have any other questions or comments specifically, or just in general? Feel free to ask whatever's in your mind or share whatever's in your mind. But does anybody else have anybody? Does anybody else have any questions or comments for anybody before we go into Fractalgram? And I'm also wondering if Jorge has been successful in creating Fractalgram.
How do I create a new group?
Yeah, so at the left side you should see
Burger menu.
yes, you should see the blue button. No, wait a second.
I mean Web Telegram, by the way. Web Telegram in Opera.
What does it say at the URL bar? It should say Fractalgram web.app.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's okay. You're there now. At the on the left toolbar, you
Top.
should see a blue button, new message, and there you should see new group. Yeah, and you will have to add at least one member to create a group. So add either me or Dan or Marco. And the rest could be added by simply sharing a link here.
Okay. I think I just added you. Group name, whatever, right?
What was that?
And group name, whatever, right?
Yeah. I usually name it something meaningful like EF and plus meeting number, but it technically doesn't matter.
This is meeting number 64?
Yes.
Okay. There we are. And now just copy the link and share it?
Yes. Share it to us.
Okay, I'll just share it on the live chat of the Telegram group.
I typically share it in the Zoom room simply because to avoid people joining it who are not in the breakout room. But
can you do it? I have Telegram in a different computer than Zoom.
Yeah. One moment, it's
Were you invited?
What's the group name?
Eden Fractal 64 R2. I don't see you inside. Maybe
I don't see it either.
Maybe I didn't invite you.
It looks like it. Although now I see that you posted in the Eden Fractal chat. Is that it?
Yeah, for some reason the link is not working for me from live chat. I typically, to share a link to the group chat, what I typically do is I press on the chat name at the top, and there on the right there is a link. It's not a Fractalgram link, it's a Telegram link. And that typically works more reliably, at least.
Yeah, the Fractalgram link, I think you'd probably have to log into Fractalgram. So whenever I share a link, I always share the actual Telegram link, which you can find not by copying the URL, but somewhere in the interface, there's like a share link button, which would share the actual Telegram group link rather than the Fractalgram link.
Okay. Well, there is a new link.
Okay, cool.
Yes, this seems like, yes, I joined.
In there too.
Marco, do you see the link in the live chat? Or I can post it in the Zoom chat as well. Okay, so I think we are all here. Okay, so now the next step is you see at the right of the input field where you see write the message, there is I don't remember how that attachment icon basically, and if you hover over it you should see a menu, and in there you should see account prompt item.
What do I press?
What?
At the at symbol.
What?
Oh, okay. I press the clip, the
paperclip.
the
Yes.
blue little thing. And what do I choose?
Yeah, so account prompt, do you see it?
Yeah.
Yes, so
Else.
yes, and there you choose yes, so basically you don't need to change anything. By default it's yes.
Just send.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, and now you know the trick, what to do next.
Jorge is becoming a Fractalgram master. Fractal sensei.
Fractal math.
Fractal master, fractal something, yeah. Fractal man.
So did you change your address, Marco?
Marco, we can't hear you. You're muted.
And now just go to the same blue thing and choose 6-level poll, right?
Yep.
Yes, right.
Yeah, you've been using this one for a while now, ever since the focus here.
And I have to do nothing, just send.
Yes, although for some reason I see that I don't see usernames. That's interesting.
I do see usernames.
See, in the poll next to my name there is Tadas 25 at Tios. It should be next to everyone else's as well. It's not your mistake. It's probably a bug. Vlad mentioned me this problem, but I was never able to reproduce it. But now,
1 minute,
yeah,
guys.
yeah. But if you reload with, I just reloaded the page, and now if I would create a poll, it would show usernames. So yes, so you can try reloading before creating a new poll.
Okay. Yeah, Jorge said 1 minute. I guess he had to attend to something. So are you
I'm
suggesting
back.
that Jorge tries that reloading before creating a new poll, and should we just vote in this one, or I guess
Yeah,
just
just vote in this one for now. But for the level 5,
Reload.
yeah, try to reload the page.
Okay.
Just reloaded it.
And now try creating level 5 poll.
What happens if someone repeats level 6 poll?
It just takes the final consensus message takes the last poll as the truth. Yeah, so now the usernames are there. Yeah, so normally you should not need to reload it. It's probably a bug. I will have to try to hunt it down.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully we can get that fixed. Jorge is level 6, and we're on to level 5 now.
I have a real hard time choosing between you two guys. Can anyone please convince me of why should I not choose the other?
Well, you want to go first, Tadas? Or should I?
No, I don't want to go.
Okay. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm voting for Tadas because I think I've just been thinking a lot, and I think I'm stoked about what's going on with the EVM and the Ethereum ecosystem. I think that's our biggest opportunity for growth, and Tadas has been leading that, and it makes it so much easier. Tadas is like leading this initiative with EVM, and it opens up a lot of opportunities for us. I've been doing a lot too. And I also really appreciate Marco advocating for Eden Fractal a lot too. But yeah, that's my thoughts basically, and I'm happy to go however.
I think Tadas said wait for it, so I didn't go for it this week.
Okay.
I'll go for. It's really hard. I'll choose randomly. Okay. I'll go for Dan.
Okay.
He's been so mistreated this week by everybody, including myself, that I have to compensate somehow.
Thank you, Jorge.
What happened to Dan?
Did you hear Marco's question, Jorge?
No, what do you say?
What happened to Dan?
Well, he was in the incubator meeting promoting this fractal, and the reaction was pretty harsh to them. There.
It's Eden for you.
And then yesterday we were at the tech dev meeting, and I took him, no, not him, but I took this fractal as an example of why a fractal can risk success if the multi-sig is not automatically updated. And I also took him as an example for something else, which I totally understand, but I still criticize him publicly.
Eden feels like a ball hog, like a soccer player who refuses to pass the ball. So I see it. Yeah, don't need to go with it.
So yeah, I'll go for Dan.
Well, thank you, Jorge. I appreciate it a lot. And yeah, I don't know if people in the community have really followed, but there's been a pretty considerable degree of censorship from Eden on EOS. Like they basically stopped allowing Eden Fractal to post in any of the Eden on EOS chats, which were formerly Eden community chats. They stopped me from speaking several times or like cut me off. And in general, they don't seem to be very favorable towards Eden Fractal or me, kind of. So I don't understand it, but Jorge, I appreciate the sentiment. Oh, is that Marco?
They seem very stressed out, and there's just a lot of noise in hypha. Like when I was there, it's like you don't want to hire a lot of managers because it creates more noise. But if you needed a place with a lot of managers, it was at hypha. So I can see why you'd be stressed out to undertake that and rely on it. And I could when they were relying on hypha, I just knew it wasn't going to come right away. And I think they're just really stressed out.
I think there isn't a single reason. That's why it's difficult to identify. But maybe we can proceed with the voting, so we get out of this and then talk about it.
Good point. We just need you to put up the poll for level 4, Jorge. Yeah, we do only have, we're 3 minutes top of the hour, so we should try to finish in the next few minutes, so we're not keeping the other room waiting.
He then should not have appeared in the level 4 poll.
Should I reload again?
Yeah, that might help.
Yeah, I'll delete the poll and create a new one.
Okay.
By the way, Marco, I feel like I always ranked you lower than is fair, and the reason is that it's really hard to hear you. For example, today I hear like 40% of what you said, and besides your,
I need a new sound card. Don't worry about it.
for example, that I didn't understood.
I need a new sound card, just a better sound card. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it. It'll be here.
So I love you, Marco. I love to rank you above Tadas, but Tadas I understand.
Okay, well, sounds good. Jorge, if you want to put, actually, no, we do have level 3, so I think that's automatically done, but now we just need to do the delegate one as well.
So it's automatically filled, the level 3, Tadas?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes, the last one is if we reach consensus on the previous, the last one is good. Okay, so who wants to be a delegate?
I don't think I can make it. I'll have so much work on my plate now.
You don't think you can make it?
Correct.
Okay, I see Dan, me are already delegates.
But I always say I can't make it, but I always make it. So if you guys want to choose me, choose me.
Yeah, and I see your delegate, your delegation expired this week. Marco, do you want to be a delegate?
Not this week.
Okay.
Are you guys delegates? Dan and Tadas?
I'm a delegate from 3 weeks ago and from last week. And Tadas is a delegate from 3 weeks ago.
So I have to do it. Okay, I'll do it.
Okay, I mean, if you don't want to, Jorge, or you'll be busy, we could also, like, I'd be happy to elect Tadas again too. He'll be expiring in, I guess, next week or something like that. But, I mean, do you want to, and do you think you'll be able to be
I
here,
want it
Jorge?
like 40%, because I know I have a lot of things to do. But I know I'll be here because at least during the part of the post breakout hour, because I'm always curious.
Yeah, so I'm voting for Jorge. I would prefer him to be a delegate, and it's unlikely that you will need to do much work.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we haven't made proposals much lately anyway.
yeah. Yeah, and the last step is consensus results item.
Okay.
Yeah, and in there you will need to first choose EOS, hidden on EOS, so you don't need to choose anything, it's default. And then you need to fill in group number. And we are room 2.
I don't see an option for group number.
Yeah, so press next, and then it will ask.
Okay. It appears empty.
Yeah, you need to fill it in. From Zoom, you can see in Zoom that we are room 2.
No, I mean, after I input the number, it appears empty. I'll show you.
Whoa. Yeah, that's the same bug that Vlad was talking about.
I'll reload.
I thought it was.
We are a couple minutes past the top of the hour, so I suppose I should hit the close break room button and we can resolve this back in the community room.
Yes.
Now it's filled.
Okay, now it's filled. Nice.
Interesting. If I tried to create it, it was still empty for me, but wait, I did not reload.
Don't we have to fill level 2 and 1?
Yes, we will.
Just put in like put an eden fract test there. I think that would work Or you don't have to do level 1, we just need to do level 2.
Eden fract test.
And I'll hit the close room button now.
But I'll have to be filled manually, right?
Yeah, just manually. I mean, if we want to paste the link again, I think the way it works is if you write it, then it automatically updates it. Yeah, so like for example, I just write it manually, eden fract test, and then I just copy the URL, and now if you click my URL, then it would have it in there.
Okay.
Well, thanks all for the great room. I really appreciate everyone's work very much.
And I wanted to tell you that I appreciate the really hard work you do. Of course, there is some improvements to make, and keep going. Keep the good work.
Yeah, and I disagree with anyone who blames Dan for failures of Eden Fractal. Like, it's like Dan does the most, he has the least blame, in my opinion. So it's up to others to pick up the slack, I think.
I do agree that Dan has some responsibility.
Rosmari, the link.
Oh. The last step was, I don't know if you're recording, but the last step is consensus results.
Okay. And are you going to drop the link for us here somewhere?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that all right? It's good to
This
join.
time we didn't even have 60 seconds.
Oh, you didn't have 60 seconds? It counted 60 seconds for us. Oh, okay. Well, did your group have enough time?
I didn't
yeah,
see
it did
it.
for us. Okay. Sorry about that.
Okay. It's okay.
All right, your group had enough time to come to consensus and everything like that? All good?
Yes.
She gave us a lesson. Rosmari gave us a lesson on Fractalgram and recorded it, and she's just about to drop the link so that we can actually vote.
All right. Very nice. Well,
yeah, great meeting.
Awesome. Glad to hear you enjoyed it. Thank you, Rosmari, for recording that and taking care of that. And thank you, Perry, for the summary / report. Also, in our group, Jorge learned how to do Fractalgram today, too. So cool to see that we're all learning these tools. And also, Jorge and Tadas, the room got cut off as we were in the conversation. But I just want to say that I appreciate you guys' words there and sentiment a lot. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys too. I'm happy to continue that conversation more in the future and work on ways that we can improve and do all sorts of awesome stuff together. But I really appreciate your words. I suppose.
Hey, do we have a moment for me to show you guys what happens when I try to push it on chain, so you guys can see and maybe tell me if I'm doing something wrong or that?
Yeah, I think so. If it'll only take a moment, if it won't take too long, then I think that would be cool to see what's going on.
Okay. Let me see. Okay.
Oh, we have to also pre-fill the level 2 and level 1.
You don't have to do level 1. You could just do level 2. It just needs to have at least 5.
Eden.fractal?
No, it can't be eden.fractal. I mean, it could be because I'll always update it when I do it, but I would do eden fract test.
Eden.
I will share it in
fract.
the Zoom chat. Yes.
Joe, maybe that's where that has to be pre-filled for level 2.
Oh yeah.
Can you guys see my screen?
No, we cannot see your screen. But if the issue is that you don't have something filled in level 2, then that would not submit. And so I just pasted Eden fract test in the Zoom chat. And if you paste that into the level 2 spot, then that would fix the issue if that is the issue that you're having.
And Joe, if
the
you
issue,
can try with
I
clicking...
can't submit either. There's an account that doesn't exist on the link.
Yes, that was
sent.
I just resent the link again with the pre-filled account name for level 2 on the Telegram chat.
So, okay, who got the link? Who got the link wrong?
It wasn't really it was the way that it automated, I guess, from using Fractalgram maybe, but it wasn't really, it's not really like a wrong, it's just Right. I mean, I guess I could have checked that there's no level 2.
Oh,
Yes,
that was the
associated.
problem.
Yes,
Okay.
that's like because it was 4 of us in the room.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the way the software works is that
Okay.
you need to have at least 5 people in the room or else it won't work. So if you're in a room and there's only 4 people and you need to submit it, then just add something like Eden fract test to the level 2, and then when you submit it should work well. I see Joe sharing a
Okay.
screen now. Joe, do you want to share what you're
Yeah.
showing us?
Okay, so this is the link she just sent with all that stuff in. I've already logged in, I think. Yep, baby, push it on chain.
That's right.
So then it prompts me to open my anchor, but look what happens when it goes to anchor. I have no option to do anything like this.
Scroll down a bit. It might be off the screen.
You can't scroll down. So then, so that's what happens for me. And then I go, look, I put sign manually, launch anchor, and it says open in Wombat. Look at this. Now it takes me to Wombat. I'm like, what the?
I'm familiar with that error, Joe. So Wombat uses the same, I don't know if it's STK or something like that as Anchor, and I've heard that Wombat kind of overtakes Anchor. So I made sure to remove Wombat from the App Store, from the phone, if you're not using it, because then it will default to Anchor. That's not specific to the web app for Eden Fractal. That's just with all apps. Wombat tends to take over Anchor.
I see. Okay, so that's probably been my problem this whole time.
And then
Right.
I've also had similar issues too with the mobile, like just with Anchor in general. Sometimes it doesn't always process transactions. It works more reliably when I use the QR code on a computer. I don't know if that's just my experience, but sometimes I've had similar issues, which I don't know if it's related directly to the Eden Fractal web app. You might want to try out a similar flow with some different app that uses Anchor and see if it works better there. I see maybe Perry was about to say something too. Sorry if I was speaking over you there, Perry.
I will say now that I have successfully voted, so thank you, Rosmari. Awesome.
Yeah, I got it too.
I'm gonna head over to my desktop here in a moment, but I ran into this problem. I was going out to work, and I barely had time to do this right before I started the day, and again, same problem where I couldn't get to a desktop because I'm in the middle of Hollywood or whatever, and like I was like, well, I could, if I could do it later, but it's got a 2-hour limit on it. I was wondering, why is there such a rapid time frame? Like, why not, hey, you got till tomorrow this time to do it? Like, why do we choose 2-hour time frame? Just wondering.
Yeah, so that was, I mean, it's been programmed in since the beginning, basically. That's something that back when the Genesis Fractal was operating, they had kind of a strict rule where you had like do it during the meeting. And I think that was coming from the idea that like to protect the game from being gamed, so to speak. Like you can imagine if it's a really big community where people don't trust each other or something like that, maybe they go in the breakout room, but then they change their mind an hour later, something like that, because there's collusion. I think that was like the original idea there, and then that's kind of stuck over because then when James Mart built the code for us back when we first started Eden Fractal, he I think programmed in that 2-hour delay, and we just haven't changed it since then. I know that the way that Vlad is doing in the next version of the web app that he's been working on, it's all automated, so I'm not sure if there is that 2-hour delay, and I know that Vlad's aware of that issue as well. So I believe that's probably going to be fixed and extended. We've discussed that a few different times, and I agree it should be longer.
Cool.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks, Joe and Perry and Rosmari and Gnome for all of the help diagnosing all these technical issues and fixing the technical issues and so forth. If anybody else has any other comments that you want to share before we head into the topics on the agenda.
Is Tadas with us?
Yes.
Tadas, could you add that 5th vote so if there's only 4 people, the automated Fractalgram thing would automatically add the 5th vote?
Yes, good idea. Currently,
because we know what's going on. We weren't surprised. Rosmari handled it right away. But if we're going to teach this to more people, if we want to scale, we want to make it as simple as possible.
yes, you're right.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, cool. Well, making technical progress. Great suggestion. Thank you, Gnome. I'm looking forward to seeing our continued development of better and better tools. And thanks also to Das for providing continual support and upgrades to Fractal.
Dan, your mic is a bit low.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. I will raise that right now.
Stop yelling at me. Just kidding.
Hopefully it's
I'm
better
just
now.
kidding.
Okay. I hope it's better now, Rosmari. I raised it like 10 decibels, so it should be good. Please let me know if it's still kind of low, and I'll raise it more. If not, I'll assume that's good. And I will go ahead with the topics on the agenda, if that's cool with everybody. Okay, so welcome back. Hope everybody had a tremendous breakout room and is having a great time overall and a great week back here in the community room for Eden Fractal, and we're playing Cagendas now. Everybody, of course, everybody here is quite familiar. You've probably heard me say it again. By the way, I do repeat some stuff sometimes because we also like there's kind of two different, I guess, groups. There's everybody who's here who's very familiar, but then also people might be watching might not be totally familiar with the processes. So I do try to just repeat some of it, just a high level overview about what Cagendas is and stuff like that. So if you all get tired of me repeating the same thing over and over again, I'm trying to balance it out so I'm not being too repetitive. But feel free to let me know however you think would be best to provide the best experience with you. But yeah, basically we're going to play Cagendas, social coordination game, making agendas, making topics. Everybody can propose a topic on Consortium. Each week, encourage you to do so. I proposed 4 topics because there's a lot to discuss this week, and I don't think anybody else did propose a topic. The 4 topics I proposed were updating the Msig, which currently has the most votes, and so we'll jump into that first. And I have a little article / Notion page where we can discuss that more. And then also there's a project about Jitsi, which is the second most votes, tied with Optimism right now. I don't know who voted with 1 Eden, but you can vote for topics with more Eden points. Basically, however many you earn, you can vote for as many as you want. So if you did want to, whoever did that, if you wanted to prioritize either one of these more, you could vote for 2 or 100 or 50 or however many Eden points you have, but you can do 1 if you want to as well. But just in case there was any confusion there. So yeah, Jitsi, basically last week we tested Jitsi and it worked quite well, but there are some issues that we could go over and discuss the next best step. Updating the Msig, Patrick and CAC said they wanted to be removed, and we've been talking about auditing Msig and different solutions for a while now that we might want to explore, and that's what we'll get into. There's also topics of Optimism, which is a Ethereum layer 2 and ecosystem that funds public goods that I'm excited to share with you all, so we could discuss that if we have time after the other 2 topics or after the other topic. And then we also have the topics game too, which was formerly I was calling Tropics, but now after Jorge's suggestion, just naming it topics. And then we have these listed here too. If anybody wants to be invited, so far I guess like half of us are here on this in this Notion database. And Perry sent me his email last week and I invited him. But yeah, if anybody else wants to be invited to this database and you can have access to write your own topics and stuff like that here, then you can do so. I also have topics with more details for each one of these, for Optimism, the Jitsi Notion project, Optimism, and just the topics in general. So I suppose first we can start, since the one with the most votes was updating the community Msig. Yeah, I'm experimenting with different ways to organize this Notion database, and what I did right here was I just included a couple links with some related information, and then I just took screenshots of some things that happened in the Eden Fractal Telegram chat recently. So CAC and Patrick from Nova Crypto both wrote that they'd like to be removed from the Eden Fractal multisig as promptly as possible, and they thanked us. And then I responded that thanked them for the help basically, and that I proposed to update the or I proposed to discuss updating the Msig during today's meeting and suggest that we can upgrade to an automatic Msig configuration by Vlad so that we can remove them as soon as possible from the Msig. And then I also tagged and messaged Vlad. I was reviewing his proposals because Vlad made a proposal back in, I think, Eden Fractal week 44 to automate the Eden Fractal Msig. He built a set of smart contracts that allows an automated Msig between the top 6 most respected members of who's getting most respect points basically in these games, where the Msig would change. And so I figured that might be the right time to change there. I could provide a bit more details about the current configuration about the Msig if people aren't familiar, but basically I asked Vlad a couple questions about, well, his proposals that he made back in April. They still haven't expired yet. They're expiring on the 10th. So he's also working on a lot of updates, and he's planning to release a new version, I think, in the coming weeks. So I'm wondering if it'd be best to approve those. I'm wondering in general what everybody thinks is best. If people recommend doing another manual Msig, that's another option too. Or if people advocate, I think there's a lot of people who are in favor of doing the automated Msig. So happy to explore that. And then I also ask if it's sufficiently tested. We've been testing it in the Alien Worlds Fractal for about 10 weeks. So far, just the active permission. I think Vlad still has the owner permission in there. So I'm curious how well it's been tested. That was one of the concerns that we had about moving to an untested software, and it's been tested to some extent, at least now, but I'm wondering how sufficiently tested it is. And also, I asked Vlad how easy or difficult it is to configure the settings of the automated Msig, because right now we have active owner and walkthrough permissions. There's a bit of sound that's going on. Maybe I'll just mute everybody real quick right now. I don't know if anybody has some sound going on. Feel free to unmute if you want to share something or raise your hand, but just to stop whatever that sound was, I just muted everybody real quick. And so yeah, you could read those comments in more detail. For a bit more background on this, I have an article at edencourage.com/msig. It hasn't been updated very much lately, but I put an immense amount of work into this over the past months or so, especially early in the year, where I summarized what is an Msig and what's the difference between active and owner permission, and then the proposals. We had lots of brainstorming sessions and discussions. We probably discussed it like 3 or 4 Eden Fractal meetings. This has been a big topic, changing the Msig, and it hasn't been working out super well because sometimes it takes a little while for people to approve an Msig. So there's certainly ways we can improve. If anybody's not familiar with an Msig, there's a section here where you can watch a video and learn what it is. Basically a community account that people can share permissions for, and there's more information about the Antle permission system there. And this is the current Msig configuration, or actually it's not, because we made this proposal back in, I guess, week 35 this was, or something like that. Yeah, week 35. And the Eden Fractal delegates approved this proposal to set these people as the delegates, or not the delegates, the signatories on the Msig. And this is correct for the custom permissions, which is called Morpheus, and it's correct for the active permission. But the owner permission was just never changed. I think we agreed to, but then I think the only person who knows how to make that proposal is Vlad, and I don't think that he ever got around to making it. So currently, the owner permission of the Eden Fractal is still here. Was the first configuration of the Eden Fractal Msig, where you can see it's myself, Chuck, and Felix, who haven't joined in a very long time. James, who he's still active in related communities, but he hasn't joined the Eden Fractal meetings in a while. Patrick and Vlad. So this is the owner permission currently, and Patrick wants to be removed from this one, as well as the active permission and the Morpheus permission, I believe. So this is how we currently have it. It's worked out pretty well, but yeah, sometimes it takes a while for people to propose and approve the Msig proposals, or it takes a while for people to approve and execute the Msig proposals that I make every week. And it is manual right now. It just stays here. So if people stop attending, like for example, Chuck or Felix haven't been here in a very long time, then who knows if they'd ever sign an Msig proposal. So that's one of the advantages of the automated Msig. One of the reasons, well, on the edencourage.com/tools article, I had curated a little bit about different Msig solutions. So this system that Vlad designed of changing automatically the account permissions to be the people who are receiving the most respect. Vlad gave a presentation about this on the 44th Eden Fractal meeting, and he also did an interview with Patrick discussing how this works. So if people want to, then I can share links there. This is at edenfractal.com/tools or edencreators.com/tools and edenfractal.com/44, where you can learn about this. And there's also a little article that I've written about how this tools and technology works, where you can learn more. And another thing that we had considered too, that's come up several times, I know no one has mentioned it, is having it where delegates, or perhaps some other role, is the people who are on the Msig. that software isn't really available. The software that Vlad built is available, and he made a proposal that we could perhaps just simply approve and then get it working with the automated Msig with the top 6 most respected members for Eden Fractal. There's also the idea that people could have it where delegates or some other role could be elected each week to be on the Msig. And I have a little bit written about here where the Eden OS software that's kind of has a lot of spaghetti code. It might not be good for us. Has a permission to be able to do, or has the option to do something like that, but it's not well tested and it's not configured for our weekly use case. But you can learn about that. And I think Vlad also briefly tried doing this too, but he elected to go with the automated Msig for the top 6 most respected people. So basically that's a little bit of an overview. I'll share these links in the live chat in case anybody would like to dive in deeper. But yeah, basically CAC and Patrick want to be removed from the Msig as promptly as possible. And the Msig in general, it could be working better. And so I'm wondering what people think about switching over to this automated Msig solution. I think it's best to wait to hear from Vlad about answer to these, or if we should ask any other questions to Vlad,
Dan?
and so forth. Yeah, no.
I'm looking at the top 6, and I'm not sure if I'm looking at the right top 6, but it looks like CAC is in the top 6. So if you replace the top 6, you're going to get Dario and Melvin and
No.
Lenny.
That's not correct. The way this works, and sorry if I didn't explain this well, it's curated better on this article here. It's written best over here, where the open source software enables any community to automatically select tutorials each week to include the 6 people who received the most respect over the past 12 weeks. So Lenny hasn't been here for a while, as well as I don't know if Dario's ever been here. And then CAC, he joined once, like a couple weeks ago, but he definitely isn't in the top 6 most respected people.
Okay.
So this is
So
the top 6.
Where do we go to see the top 6 for 12 weeks?
Right now, there's not a great place. I mean, you can go to blocks.io, and then if you go into the eden.fractal account, that's probably one place. We also built GNOME, me, you, and Rosmari. We built for the Cignals spreadsheet. We manually curated that, but we haven't updated in the past few weeks. So the easiest place to find this, I think, is probably just go to Eden Fractal and then go into the contract, and then go to, where is it, consensus, I guess, tables, yeah, consensus, and then we type in like the number 61, for example. This would be like our 60th meeting. These numbers have been a bit messed up too. This is something that we should fix at some point, because the scope used to have the ranking for each meeting, but we had it where a couple times it's duplicated. So I think like right now, for example, the scope of 63 is like the 62nd meeting results, basically. So there's a little bit of manual work we'll have to do to just figure out how this works. But basically the way we do it is probably, well, first off, Vlad software will automatically figure this out. Although Vlad software also might mess up since we have different scopes. So, but also Vlad is building another upgrade which might fix this issue. So there's a lot of ifs here. But basically, right now, manually, we'd have to go and just look at these rankings and see, for example, Rosmari got ranked 6, and I got ranked 5, and Eric got ranked 6, and so forth. And we have to put this into a spreadsheet if we manually wanted to check it out. And Vlad software, I think, would be able to just automatically figure this out, but we might need to make a couple improvements. But the idea of Vlad software is that it just does automatically, though.
I think that for visibility purposes, transparency, if we're using the last 12 weeks, we should have a spreadsheet or some kind of an interface where people could just click and see who those top 6 or top 10 are. Automatically updated way. So when Jorge asked, at least we knew who to ask. We knew who the people are. And going forward, if it's going to be the top 6 from a list, that list should be available without somebody having to go through a spreadsheet. And I'll be happy to help design the spreadsheet or the code in the background to do it. But I think it needs to be done so a user wouldn't have to.
Well, thank you, Noam. I think for the most part, Vlad software is designed to do that automatically. So, for example, it's been working pretty successfully, I think, in the Alien Worlds Fractal for the past 10 weeks or so. I've never looked at, who gets ranked from week to week, because Vlad software has all that like it has the addition of people's ranks over the past 12 weeks and the averaging of it all worked out on the blockchain. So as long as you trust the software, I haven't double checked and confirmed. So perhaps there's a bug in it that I haven't seen.
So
But as
how
far as
do
I
we
know, it
see
just does automatically.
how do we see the list?
Oh, well, the other thing I could show here too is just the keys section, and also I see Tadas and Jorge have their hands raised. So if you don't mind them, then I'll pass it on to them after I just
Okay.
briefly respond. But basically, the way it works is you can just go into blocks.io and you could go into the keys section at any point, and that's how you can find the permissions for who's currently on an Msig. So for example, eden.fractal Msig, if you go to eden.fractal on blocks.io and you go to keys, then you could see this is the owner, active, and Morpheus permissions, which are currently on there. And then anybody would be able to easily see, oh, these are the people who are currently on the list, basically. And so it would automatically update with Vlad software, so you'd be able to see from there.
Okay. So once it's activated, we'll be able to see it here. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. And the only one, I'm forgetting the word, but the only one thing that we'd have to consider too is that because our past 12 weeks, there were sometimes that we initiated the start elect button twice. Like for example, when Vlad did and I did at the same time, we didn't communicate because we didn't know who was doing it. That's why we're off right now. So we might have to just take that into account and ask Vlad about how that would work. I'm pretty sure we could resolve that pretty easily, but that is just one issue that could potentially get in the way of Vlad's design right now. With that, I'll pass it on to Das.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, so I would present an argument to say that we simply need to change the Msig who are participants in the Msig, and Vlad's solution would not solve much for us, if anything. So first of all, I think we need to change the owner permission anyway, because there are a lot of people who are not participating for a long time there, and yeah, Vlad's solution would not change that. And also another huge problem is that we often fail distributing the funds. And Vlad's solution, as I understand it, it wouldn't change that. It could help change that, but there is no guarantee at all. And for me, a more reliable solution would be to create like we currently have a submit cons permission for distributing rewards, and we should simply choose at least like 3 or 4 people and like have them basically promise to execute it. Yeah, and another thing I'm not a fan of in Vlad's solution is that people are not asked if they actually want to be part of the Msig.
I second that.
All right. Thank you to Das and Noam. Good points. I'll just, before passing on to Jorge, maybe I'll just briefly respond. So a couple different things. One, the next version of the app that Vlad is building, he's planning to complete this in the coming weeks, I believe. He's working with Matthias's team, and he's also worked on a proposal with Jorge to propose it for Eden on EOS community, and it does include automatic sending out of rewards, I believe. So this would not require anybody to manually send it out. It would just automatically happen, I believe, each week, depending on the consensus results. And then secondly, I believe you could also change the thresholds. That's one thing that I asked Vlad to make it so that it's a lower threshold. So, for example, if you wanted to have 1 out of 6 people be able to approve it, or 2 out of 6 people to approve the weekly Msig proposal. So those are some considerations there. Another thing is too that the amount of funds that the community has, community's never had many funds, but I've donated some EOS, and Patrick donated some EOS. The most of the donations from the eden.fractal account were from Patrick, and there's only about 500 left there. And it's possible. One of the other topics I had mentioned that I posed was Optimism, which is an EVM compatible blockchain. And Tadas has been building the first version of Firmament. So what I'm planning to propose in one of these days or weeks soon is that we start pinning results to Optimism or other Ethereum-based EVM chains, which could also be a potential solution to this as well. I think it makes sense to both support the EOS and Optimism or Ethereum communities as well. But that's another thing we might want to consider. And then lastly, to respond to Tadas's first point about the owner permission, so Vlad software hasn't been tested for the owner permission, but it could be used for the owner permission. So for example, we could make, I believe, an automated Msig for the owner permission that has, say, a 4 to 5 out of 6. The same for an active permission with an automated Msig with, say, a 2 out of 6 or a 3 out of 6, something like that, and the Morpheus permission with a 1 or 2 out of 6. Just kind of throwing numbers, but I believe it could be. But also a good point about being asked to be on the Msig too. Some people might not want to be in the Msig, but with Vlad's current solution, there is, if you're high in respect, then you get on the Msig automatically, and so that's something to consider. I can share more, but I know Jorge's been patient, so I will pass on to Jorge first, and I see Tadas raise his hand again, and then I can share more thoughts after that.
Yeah, thank you. I think Dan already made my point, which is that with Vlad's solution, you wouldn't have to sign every week, but because the transfer of funds, the weekly transfer of funds will be automatic, the only time you will need to sign is whenever you want to withdraw extra funds for whatever purpose from the treasury. Only in those cases you will need this manual signal of this multi-sig. And the other thing I was wondering is why the number 6? Why not 10 or 20? Why 3 out of 6 and not 10 out of 20? The way I thought about it for the Spanish-speaking fractal is, for the fractal of the Spanish language. The way I thought about it was, let's suppose the fractal has had 50 members through its history. We take the 20% highest contributors to the fractal, and from that 20%, which if the number is 50, will be 10 people. That number of people goes into the multi-sig, and from that number, maybe 40% or 50% of require approval. Because it doesn't really make sense to have, for example, a fractal of 1,000 people and only 6 people being responsible for the signing up, the signing of the multi-sig. So those are things to consider. Another one to consider is, according to Vlad's solution, because the token is non-transferable, it's not necessarily to actually be a token. It can just be a number, like a variable stored on the blockchain, just a score. Being non-transferable, it doesn't have to be a token. And if it doesn't have to be a token, then maybe we can penalize whenever someone who is supposed to do something doesn't. For example, if you are part of the multi-sig and you don't sign, then your score is multiplied by 0.9, so it gets reduced by 10% or by 5%, whatever. So you will automatically be removed from the multi-sig, and people. So the thing will be more dynamical. I think those are ideas to consider. Thank you.
Very interesting points. Thank you, Jorge. I have some notes I can respond, but Tadas has his hands up, so first I'll pass it over to Tadas.
Yeah, so the last idea that Jorge suggested, it's a new idea and it will take time to analyze and develop. And the way I see it, maybe we should focus on first maintaining our current system with what we have currently. And I see this topic as about that, as opposed to creating future solutions. Like firmament can partly be a solution to that. Vlad is also working on a solution to the Msig problem. And that version of Vlad's smart contracts where distribution of funds are automatic. It's not there yet. So and I was mostly critiquing Vlad's old solution that that is already available. Yeah, so the way I see it, I think we need to change, even with Vlad's new version that he said will going to be available in the next couple of weeks. Even in that solution, I still think we will have to change the owner permission. It's it won't replace that need. So yeah, and I wouldn't suggest automatically setting the owner permission based on individuals which are best ranked. Yeah, so I think and if we are changing owner permission anyway, we might as well change all the others right now.
Good points. Thanks, Tadas. And thanks, Jorge. Yeah, so some comments. One, I agree with Tadas that we should focus on like the immediate improvements that need to be done. Like, because I would like to honor the request of CAC and Patrick to be able to remove them quickly. I'm interested. I think the suggestions that Jorge made are very interesting about future ways that could be designed, such as having it where like people potentially lose respect or not gain as much respect if they don't sign the Msig and stuff like that. I think that's an interesting idea. And then also the idea that Jorge mentioned too about having a different amount of people on the automated Msig, that's another interesting idea too that I kind of hinted at with Vlad, but I didn't want to ask him too many questions, but I think that's good to ask with him. There could potentially be issues there. Like say if we, for example, like we usually don't have 20 people at most of our meetings. So say if we did make it 20 people, then would there be a bug in the software if there is more people? Like I know Fractalgram is kind of, you have to be kind of particular. You have to get just the right amount of people or else it might not work. There can't be 4. So what would happen, for example, with Vlad software, if we configure it to 10, but then there's only 9 people who join the meeting or something like that, then would that mess up the software? There's some of the edge cases there that I think might be worth considering. But I agree with the idea that Jorge shared there, that especially as we grow, it doesn't make sense for 6 people to have the Msig with 1,000 people or something like that. And it might be better for us now to do like a 10 person or 12 person, something like that. I also agree with Stas's point. Like ideally, I thought it'd be best if you could kind of like elect it, like maybe the delegates or maybe some other role is elected to be on the Msig. I really like the design that Vlad made, but I've also kind of always felt like, that's one of the things I liked with the Eden plus fractal process that was designed, that it like kind of decouples who's a delegate as opposed to who's the most respected, because you don't necessarily always want to be on the Msig if you're just doing a lot of work and stuff. I don't think it's a big deal. My suggestion, or I don't know if it's a big deal, but my suggestion was still to move to the automatic Msig because, I mean, it is like a really nice software, and I think it could be really helpful. And I'm not sure what else to do. Like, I suppose we could manually set up an Msig with people who are here, or I'm very happy to hear ideas if Tadashi has suggestions or anybody else has suggestions. But that would give us mobility. Like another thing that I'm somewhat concerned about too is that if people stop attending, that can get difficult to change the Msig. Like for example, right now there's 6 people on the Msig, and it requires 4 to 6 people to sign those for the owner key. 2 of them have been totally non-responsive for like over a year now. And so what happens if one person didn't respond? Then we could change the owner permission or to get potentially just stuck. And then another thing to consider too, I kind of mentioned this before, but currently there's no other sponsors lined up for Eden Fractal. Maybe we'll get more sponsors. That'd be great. And I'm working, I think that Optimism opportunity I mentioned, I think it's an excellent opportunity for way more funding than we've ever had before. But currently we don't have anything lined up, and this EOS will run out in 5 weeks. Jorge mentioned that maybe you don't need a token. Maybe it's just like a backend database. In that case, you don't really even need to execute the transactions to send the respect points out. I mean, we do use it for Consortium, the Eden respect points each week. So it's helpful for that purpose. But potentially you could post it, and then that accomplishes a lot of the objective without having to do a transaction every week. If you're not giving out EOS every week, hopefully we can, but if we don't have more sponsors, then you could still post the consensus results to the blockchain without having to process a transaction each week as well. So we might not necessarily need to do that. So yeah, I'm curious. Those are kind of a lot of thoughts there, and I see Rosmari has her hand up, so I'll pass it on. And I also want to ask everybody what they think we should do because I don't know. But first, I'll pass it on to Rosmari, and very curious to hear your thoughts.
Thanks. So who can change the owner permission at the moment? Like who has the actual tools to do that?
This is just the people on the owner permission. So
So
it's
themselves, like they can change whoever is on there.
yeah, the way it works is that there's 6 people on there, and we need to have 4 to 6 people sign the transaction to change it. So it is me, Patrick, Chuck, Felix, and Vlad. I think I said 6 right there. And so 4 to 6 would need to sign a transaction to do it. And anybody could propose it. And so I could propose it, but then I have to get, in addition to me signing it, I'd have to get 3 of them to also sign it. And I think Patrick
We
would
have
like to do it.
Vlad, Patrick,
Yeah.
and did you say Lenny?
No, not Lenny. It's Chuck, Felix, and James. Chuck and Felix I haven't heard
Okay.
from in over a year, and James I speak with him fairly frequently. He hosts meetings and stuff like that. So and so I'm pretty sure James could do it if we asked him.
Okay. Doesn't that solve the question?
I mean, that solves part of the question in that we
Part of
could.
it, at least.
Yeah, so that gives us the ability to change the owner Msig. If
And then
if
we have
James didn't
to-
respond or something, then we wouldn't be able to do it. But that gives us the opportunity to do so. But we'd have to figure out what to change it to.
So are we voting on what to change it to then? Are we discussing that?
We're discussing it. We're not really voting. I'm curious if
Not
people want to
voting,
vote.
but discussing.
You're discussing what to do for both the owner, the active, and the Morpheus permission, all the permissions. And the active permission has a different set. There's 12 people on there, and it needs 5 out of 12, or 5 out of 11 rather. And then Morpheus, it needs like, well, if we get the active or the owner, then we can take care of that. If we got the owner, then we could take care of everything too. So as far as who would need to make the change,
So let's do the owner first.
Yep, I think that makes sense, and I can reach out to James this week and see if he could
We have
help
to
with
just
that.
think about what to change it to.
Yeah.
Okay. That doesn't seem so difficult.
Nope.
Okay.
But it's a question. It's do we want to change it to the automatic Msig solution that Vlad built? Do we want to wait till the next software version that Vlad is building that has upgrades? Do we want to ask Vlad more questions? Do we want to do it manually?
For the moment, can we just not think about, for example, this is the process that we'll change it to? Not like completely, but for now, just for the owner permission. For example, the last, I guess, top 6 people with the most respect, looking at the last 12 weeks or whatever was written there or wherever. Can we not just, for example, if this is the solution for that changing the owner permission, can we just not agree on it, like vote and something like that? So is that not enough?
Yeah,
if we're not ready to, let's say, decide on the whole process being changed, because as you mentioned, like some of the solution is not ready yet. So
yep, that is an option. If we want to manually update it and pick whatever criteria, pick the 8 of us here or 6 of us or whatever, we could manually update that to the owner, and then that would also give us time over the next few weeks or months or whatever to decide if we want to switch over to the automatic Msig, but we would just need to decide who would be on the Msig, basically.
Okay, and that would resolve the timing request, the timely request about removing Cici and Patrick from the owner's permission. So I think that's like, for me, is the next step, to just focus on the owner's permission and changing people from there. And then we can, whoever is on there, like it would be more easily for them to reach consensus because they'll probably attend the meetings anyway. So
yep, Great points. Thank you, Rosmari, for breaking that down. That makes it clear for me, and yeah, I think that makes sense. If you want to add anything else there, Rosmari, then feel free. Oh, I see you lower your hand, and now we have Perry and Tadas raising their hands too. So I'll pass on to Perry.
So did you mention the ETA, the estimated time of arrival of the latest update that Vlad would have for these Msig, for these auto M6s? Did you mention? I didn't catch. Like how many weeks, how many months?
Yeah, so the current version is currently working and deployed in the Alien Worlds Fractal for the past few months, and then the new version, I heard him yesterday. I think he said that it's about 80% done. The new version, which will include the automatic distribution and other upgrades, and I think he's planning to include that finish that by like mid-September, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, it seems to me that if that's anywhere near accurate, just wait for that and be the beta test for that. Do him that favor of testing that. That seems to be the superior solution, because anytime you make a change, that's a lot of energy, time. Might as well just do it once, unless it's very easy to do the upgrade to the alien worlds. If that's very simple, then, but otherwise, just wait for the latest version that he's going to have come out. That seems fine. And I'll just say this: I have not been a good Eden Fractal citizen in terms of my responsibilities for Msig. I have not, and the reason I have given is that I didn't feel like we were decentralized enough, and now I'm feeling more comfortable. So I'm willing to do that, but I would be just as happy if we went straight to the auto, and I didn't have to make that decision at all. That would be great, but then that puts the onus, that puts the responsibility of each new participant to comprehend the fact that their participation can lead to their let me understand it. Are they, when it's an auto Msig, is that essentially saying no one needs to sign anything? It's a question.
Yeah, the way I understand it, at least for like the automatic sending of rewards, nobody would need to do that on a week-to-week basis. The way it's built is that the meeting is scheduled. Well, for a high-level overview, there's also many other features too. So Vlad is also building WebRTC, so people could do breakout rooms that are actually permissioned by a blockchain account. So people would be able to go into breakout room rather than using Zoom and using Zoom's function for breakout rooms. It would be like deeply integrated with the EOS blockchain, basically, where it sends people to breakout rooms depending on their EOS account, and it sends it at a certain time that's also automated on the blockchain. And then afterwards, depending on the consensus results, then it automatically sends it out. There still would be a need for the Msig potentially if the Msig participants want to do something different. But just the weekly distribution, which is what we've done 99% of the time, that is done automatic as far as I understand. And then the Msig people could change something if they wanted to. They have the opportunity to do so.
The Msig people, meaning the owners of
Yeah.
the conference.
Yeah.
Right.
The signatories on the owner active permission, they would be able to change other things if they want to, like upgrade the contract or something like that. But the weekly distribution would happen automatically.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not exactly sure what Rosmari was suggesting, but I think it's in agreement. Basically, wait until Vlad has got the latest version, and I'd be happy just to go with that whenever that's ready, and then we get to focus on other things here in these meetings.
Okay, thanks, Perry. If it's okay with you, Tadas and Joe, I'll just respond to Perry first while it's top of mind. There's a couple different things. First off, thanks for being willing to help, and happy that you're feeling more comfortable with the decentralization Eden Fractal, Perry. Appreciate it very much. I don't think that's what Rosmari was suggesting. So one of the things is that Patrick and CAC asked it to be removed as promptly as possible. So I think Rosmari was suggesting that we focus on changing the owner permission now and perhaps changing it manually to people at this meeting. Or whoever we select to be on the owner permission, and then we could do that as a first step. So perhaps we can come to consensus today, so that we can remove them before next week, and then from there we could decide in future weeks if/when we want to change to the automated Msig when more details are available. Feel free to correct me if I got that wrong. Rosemary, she also said more too. That was kind of a summary of some key points that I think were different from what you said there, Perry. And then, okay, she's giving a thumbs up here. And then also, just to respond to a couple other things there. One, another feature too that the new software that Vlad's building is it enables claiming rather than just automatic sending, so that if you join a meeting and you get however much EOS or respect or whatever, you could claim that rather than having it sent to your account automatically. And it also allows more tokens to be sent out than just two. So those are some other interesting features that the community might want to use. And also there are interested parties too. So the Alien World Fractal, I'm not totally sure what the status is that right now, but there's several people who are there who are interested in using this. Also, Vlad made a proposal with Jorge with Eden EOS to use the software for working groups, and also the Zeos Fractal. I think it's starting in a few weeks, so they're planning, or some of them at least, I think, might test it. And as always with new software, there could be bugs. So perhaps it could be advantageous to wait until others test it, or we could be the first testers. And Vlad also did propose the current, or the one 6 months ago, and then that proposal is still live. So if we did want to approve that, then we could do that, although I don't know if it's a good idea. I also see Rose.
I did. Then I'll amend what I was just saying and say that I agree with Rosmari, and I think that we should respect Patrick and CAC if they want to be removed. And I think the best way, one way to handle it would be to make an announcement and make it clear in our group that next week the delegates will vote for that. That seems to be the reasonable way to do it. I'd like to do it now, but I think it's fair to make the announcement and then let delegates show up and vote. No? That's my.
It could be a good suggestion, but something we might want to consider too, because technically the people who have the power are different than the people who are here at the meeting. So the delegates here have like a form of, I guess, soft power influence that it's respected, but the actual people who would need to approve this change are four of me, Chuck, Felix, James, Patrick, and Vlad. So even if we wait next week and the delegates say yes, what it really comes down to is we need 4 of those 6 people to do so. And so it might be best to just do it as promptly as possible and say, okay, well, the delegates didn't make a decision here, but we here decided that, so that's something we can consider. I see Rosmari has some questions about, and sorry to Tadas and Sixfinger Joe for having you wait. Thank you for being patient. But just, I would want to briefly respond to Rosmari. The video hosting platform that Vlad's building with WebRTC, it does have a limitation in that it doesn't work for very large groups, so it'd be fine for now, but Jitsi can work for large community rooms, whereas there is limitation where the WebRTC solution that Vlad is building is not able to work for very large community rooms. I don't know what that threshold is. If we've tested it successfully with like 10 people, 12 people, but if we get to 20 or 30 people, I don't know if Vlad's software would work for that as well. So we might want to use a combination of Jitsi and Vlad's solution or something like that. But anyway, with that, I'll pass it over. Thank you, Rosmari, for asking. And then she also said, now, can we at least agree that's the step we want to take? Yeah, I'd appreciate if we go into consensus during this meeting, that would be excellent. And we are almost at the top of the hour, so I'll stop talking and curious to hear from Tadas and Joe.
Yeah, so I agree with Dan regarding Jitsi, and I agree with Rosmari. I think our priority should be to change the owner permission, and then we can easily, immediately change, remove people from the Msig from other permissions, like CAC and Patrick requested. And yeah, and like I said, I'm sure we will need to change the owner permission anyway, even if we adopted Vlad's software, because even Vlad does not suggest allowing his automated Msig solution to set the owner permission. It would only set the active permission and maybe some additional custom ones. But yeah, so changing the owner permission is something we will want to do anyway, and I think we can do it now. Well, not now, but try to do it as soon as possible. Yeah, and I guess the next step would be to figure out who should be in the owner permission, in the new owner permission.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I saw Rosmari also wrote, "Shall we vote?" ? And yeah, just I think one point you made there, Tadas. I do believe that Vlad is planning to transfer the owner permission for the Alien Worlds Fractal and other apps, but it just hasn't been tested. I don't know how confident he is yet with it yet, so potentially an option. But I don't know if it's an option we want to take, if that's too risky or anything like that.
Yeah, but his new software is even less tested than Alien Worlds software, so it's like I would say it's too far away to talk about it, to talk about transferring over the owner permission.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good. And yeah, that is an option if we wanted to use Vlad's new software or the old software. Those are two things that we could potentially might have their own benefits. I'll pass it on to Joe, also Jorge, Gnome, and Marco. If you want to share any thoughts here, I'd be happy to hear from you. And yeah, I'm also in agreement too. It would be great if maybe right now at this meeting before we go, we can just come to consensus about who would be on the owner permission. I volunteer to do it again, of course, and would be interested who else. I see Marco giving a thumbs up. So I'll pass on to Joe now.
Yeah, I agree with Rosmari. We should vote now. We should get those people, or at least get the ball rolling. I know you got to reach out to that guy James. It sounds like he's, it's iffy, right? And yeah, so while you have a chance and you got this, I think we should definitely do it. But then the other thing I was just wondering, and this may not be the place or the time or whatever, but I was just wondering what it is. I haven't seen Patrick around for a little bit, Perry's Tango partner. I was wondering, is he kind of stepping away for a bit? What's the reason for the Msig? Is there anything related? And again, if this isn't the time or place to discuss it, but I'm just wondering about that.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I'll just briefly respond to that. I don't know if you've read all the messages in the Eden Fractal Telegram chat. There was a question that Jorge asked about why members who had attended a lot in the past, such as Patrick, Vlad, and Pascal, haven't been participating as much. And there was an interesting discussion. Gnome and Tadas got in and asked some questions, and we received some response. Patrick said that he already shared his thoughts or something like that. Basically, he said he already said why he's quitting. So apparently he's quitting, and he says he has nothing to add. I shared some feedback privately to Jorge where I kind of summarized that. I guess as a quick summary, ever since he got elected as a chief delegate in Eden EOS, his focus has been more on there, and there's been some aspects of Eden Fractal that he said that he didn't like very much. So I don't know. I told him he's welcome back to join whenever he wants, but for the time being, it seems like Patrick won't be joining much going forward, and he doesn't want to be in the Msig. And then, yeah, we're at top of the hour now. So it seems like there's been some pretty wide consensus. I see Marco wrote a change ASAP in the chat. And we haven't heard from Gnome or Jorge. So if you guys want to speak out and share your we did hear from Jorge actually in the beginning. We haven't heard, and maybe we heard from Gnome a while ago as well. So we've heard from everybody, but I don't know if we heard from you guys about the idea of manually updating the Msig. So far, it seems like Rosmari's suggestion about updating the owner permission and just focusing on that first and trying to reach a consensus about that and perhaps taking a vote on that is a good way to go forward. I'm in agreement with that. I think Tadas is, I think Rosmari is, I think Space Run Good Joe and Perry, and I saw Marco give a thumbs up. So Jorge, Gnome, if you guys have any thoughts to add or any other ideas, then we'd be happy to hear it. Or if anybody else has any other thoughts, but otherwise, I'd say maybe we can just come to consensus amongst us about if we definitely want to do that. If anybody has any objections to that, or if we're all in agreement, and then also who would be the people who would be doing that. One other point I can make too is James is awesome. He hasn't been participating much in Eden Fractal much lately. He's, for anybody who doesn't know, he's a developer working with the Sync team, which is the formerly Fractally team. And he built a lot of the smart contracts for Eden Fractal. He hosts an office hours with Sync every Friday, so I go there and I talk with him every once in a while. And he might still be willing to be on the Msig, so we don't necessarily need to remove James, but he would need to update it. So that's an option too, where I could offer him to still be in the Msig if he wants to. I think maybe he wants to. He hasn't been participating, so maybe it makes sense if he's on the Msig. But that's an option as well. Felix and Chuck, we really haven't heard from them in over like a year, so I would suggest we move them off the Msig. And then I see Marco asking what potential issues may arise. We need to guarantee four plus James. Yeah, well, James, I would say James is questionable because he might just prefer to be off, but I can ask him if you all think it's a good idea, if you'd like to stay on when I ask him to sign that. And then we need to guarantee four. We need at least four people. Me, Vlad, and Patrick, I'm pretty sure would sign it. And then I would pretty sure James would sign it too. So we could change the owner permission with that. And then yeah, we'd have to design the threshold. If we did 6, then we could keep it at, currently it's at 4 to 6 plus 2 days, or 5 to 6. That's the way it works. So basically if you have 4 to 6 people who sign it, then you could change it. So we could keep that structure the same. And I see Tadas is writing, first let's decide the new owner permission structure, then we'll talk to people who can change it. Okay, good point. So for new owner permission structure, does anybody have any suggestions or proposals? Or first, maybe it might be best to ask who's interested, who would be willing to volunteer to be on the owner Msig. I already said that I'd be willing to. I think Perry said he'd be willing to as well. And see Tadas raise a hand too. Anybody want to share their thoughts? Rosmari? So far, I look, we didn't get audio, but I see raised hands. So I'm assuming that's a yes from Perry, Tadas, and Rosmari. Is that right?
Yes, so we have.
Is that to be on the owner permission?
That's
Yes.
being the owner permission, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and I see Jorge raise a hand too. So Jorge, you're also willing to be on the owner permission as well?
No, he was just stretching.
Okay, no, Jorge gave a thumbs up. Now he's stretching his thumb. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so we have 5 people who are volunteering to be on the owner permission. We could just leave it with this 5, or say Good Joe, Marco, Gnome. If you guys are interested in being on owner permission, I'd be interested to hear. I see a thumbs up from Marco. I don't know exactly what that means.
I'll volunteer if you know, whatever. But if Marco wants it, more than one.
I'm willing to take the owner permission, but I'm not asking for it.
Okay. And I see Marco.
And if you need an extra one, or you have room for an extra, I'll take it.
Okay, cool. Thank you,
like
Marco.
Everyone wants to be.
Well, so it looks like we have 5 yeses and then 3 that they can. Space Ringo, Joe, Gnome, and Marco are saying that they are happy to do so if wanted, basically, but don't need to do it, or it's not a straight request. Alternatively, or another idea too, is we could choose or reach out to somebody else who's not at this meeting. For example, Lisa joins a lot of meetings, but she's not here today. We could ask somebody like Lisa or Dwayne or others if they want to be on it. That would also take more time too. We could just go with the 5 people who volunteered yes, or we could go with all 8 of us, but we have to figure out the amount, or we could keep it at 6 and just pick one of the people who volunteered or said okay maybe, and keep it at the current thresholds. Does anybody have any suggestions about the best way to design it? I see Tadas wrote 8 accounts plus 2 days, threshold 5 ?
Well, it feels really good, and we want to honor Patrick's request, but it also feels like we are overstepping our own rules. We have a set of delegates who are supposed to vote on something that has to go through Consortium. It feels a little hasty. Yeah, Patrick wants to be removed and CAC wants to be removed, but they are not incurring in any.
I agree. Owner permission should be on. a vote for owner permission should be on chain.
Yeah, of course, but we first need to create a proposal. The way I see it, we are currently constructing a proposal, figuring out who would like to be, and then we need to figure out
Yes.
reasonable
Okay.
thresholds. And I'm not
Yeah, I
suggesting
agree with that too.
I'm not suggesting we vote today.
Yeah, that sounds better. In that case, I'm willing to offer my help, and I'll request Marco to be there. So you want it to be requested? I'm requesting you, Mr. Mockingbird.
Cool. And Jorge's where Marco
And
right,
I
Jorge's
invite
right.
no. I invite you no.
Yeah, I'll join.
Okay, cool. Well, I suppose I'll invite Space Ranger Joe as well. So we have a party. But also too, I mean, we might want to consider too, because I don't know, like people said, we are kind of rushing it a bit. And they said as promptly as possible, but it is a pretty difficult thing to do. So if we have to take another week, then I guess so be it. And then we could also ask Dwayne or Lisa or other people too who participate often, or maybe we want to keep it simple. I don't know. Another thing to consider too is I just looked at the spreadsheet and I don't think, and so like I said, like the Eden Fractal the Eden plus Fractal delegates could voice their opinion, but the people who do need to actually approve this are the people on the owner permission, because there is that link where the people who are the delegates are not the people who are on the owner permission. So those are the people, Chuck, Dan, Chuck, myself, Felix, James, Patrick, and Vlad, who would actually need to approve this. And then also, I don't know if I just said this, but most of the delegates are here right now. So in this week's council, Perry and Jorge. Last week's council, me and Rosmari. Prior week's council, Perry and Eric. Eric's not here. And myself and Tadas in 4 weeks ago council. So it's over the hour that we usually do votes. But if we wanted to, pretty much all the delegates are here except for Eric. So that potentially could be an opportunity for us to approve a proposal with the delegate. It'd be 7 minutes late, so I don't know if we should, but I'll pass on to Das, but that's something we might want to consider.
Yeah, I don't see a point in approving anything now. I think we should simply try to approve the new owner permission that we desire, and that will take us at least a week. And you're right, Dan, that technically we don't need this delegate voting to change the permission, but it might help to convince people like James and others who are not participating to sign the transaction that changes the owner permission, because we will show them that this is the consensus of our group, and we will show them basically our votes and so on. So it will sound like a more legitimate reason for them to sign it.
Yep, that's a good point, and I agree. That makes sense. All right. Perry said he likes 5/8 Fibonacci numbers. True, interesting. I like that too. I hadn't thought about it from that frame. So yeah, I suppose. What are the best next steps then? I think 5/8 seems pretty good. It might be nice to think about it a bit, but from what I can think about, from what I see right now, that seems like a pretty good suggestion. I see Marco gave it a thumbs up too. That would be 8 accounts plus 2 days for everybody here with a threshold of 5. I don't know, and so the threshold of 5 would be 4 to 8 basically, plus 2 days would have a weight of 1. Is that how your suggestion there, Tadas? So we need 4 to 8 to change that, or we need 5 out of 8?
I think 6 out of 8 makes more sense. Because we are a fractal, and fractals have a tradition of 2/3. I don't think we have to go to 2/3 plus 1, but I think
Gnome is right.
2/3 of
Gnome is right.
8 is.
Don't make me right, but I was a little scared with 5/8, just given the way things have been lately.
I like 5/8 because it's Fibonacci, but
Well,
And fractals have a lot of Fibonacci in them, but the 2/3 is there for a reason. Whatever that reason is, we should stick with it. We shouldn't make up our own rules. I like 5/8 for Fibonacci too, but I don't feel right doing it just because I like it. I want to follow a rule.
2/3 is
Yeah.
large numbers. We're very small numbers, so it's harder to divide us that way. So keep that in mind as well. We don't need to strictly adhere to this small group.
All right. So yeah, another thing.
I like to suggest something else, which is that no person who hasn't a threshold of respect, meaning eden token acquired during this meeting, should be on the owner permission of the multi-sig. There'll be a contradiction on what we stand for, which is value and respect and contributions, and having them on the multi-sig, especially on the owner permission. So Marco, sorry, I withdraw my.
Wait, I'm sorry, Jorge. Well, first off, sorry, Marco, to cut you off. Feel free to jump in, but I didn't totally understand what Jorge was suggesting there. So you're suggesting a certain threshold of respect in order to be on the owner permission?
Yeah. For example, we have this guy from the Aquarius thing. His account is God, Soul is Love. He has, I'm seeing the Eden distribution. His account is God, Soul is Love. He has 1% of the total Eden distribution. And he's a great guy, but I don't think he should be on the owner account. And if we weren't to make this decision today, but for example, next week, and next week he was here, I wouldn't support him to be in the owner permission.
I agree.
And so I think there should be a minimum threshold of eden, I mean respect received, meaning contributions to this group, in order to be in the owner permission. Of course.
Well, I'm going to use Felix as an example, because Felix got a lot of respect while he was here, and he worked hard while he was here, but he had an expectation. And his expectation was to profit right away. It wasn't to grow it. So I think the main two things are willingness to attend and people who are reachable. But the reachability isn't just James Mart, it's people who value this enough that if they need to come, they will come. That's what an owner in a stock company who's valued is not just somebody who's there every day, but that if they need to be there, they will be. And we can't say that about James Mart. I think everybody here is someone that if you call them and say we need this done, they will be here. We're a small group, so we can't abide by Dan Laram's math.
So yeah, I see your point. So what I would suggest is something like taking, for example, the 15 people with the most respect from that set, eliminating those who aren't here anymore or have asked to be removed, and then those will be the initial set of candidates to be part of the owner multi-sig.
I like that. Can you write it down so we have it documented?
Sure.
Do I make the cut? Did I make the cut? Am I on the list?
And by the way, that's just an arbitrary number I suggested, like 15, the highest 15. It could be also the highest 10 or the highest 12. But the point is,
if you go highest 10 and eliminate 3, then you have less than 8, and I don't want to go that low. So I think 15 is reasonable. 20 might be too much.
Yeah, or maybe 13, a lucky number. The point being is that we have to be coherent between what we stand for, which is fractal democracy and respect allocation, and the people who owns our contract.
I think it's about surviving right now, and I wonder about Wayne and Lisa, who their first commitment is to the alien world fractal. Whatever the reason is they're not here, we can try next week or we can investigate, but I think everybody here and Vlad are people that are reachable that could keep the contract alive. The founding
Yes.
fathers didn't operate in the Constitution that they wrote, and they didn't abide by those laws. They were looking forward, and I think that's the way we need to look at that here.
Okay, if we
do
okay,
that.
I'll give the word to Dan, moderator. If you can please help us organize.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for all the thoughts, Jorge and Marco. Another thing that just totally slipped my mind is that Vlad, he hasn't been in the past meetings that much. He was at one, I think, 3 weeks ago or something like that. But I think he's probably still willing to be on the Msig. I kind of just totally forgot that. But Vlad has been here since the beginning, and I still meet with him every week. So I think Vlad's probably still interested in being in the Msig. We don't have to change that, but we can also speak with him about that. And then I know Tadas has had hands up for a while, so I see you just lowered it. Tadas, did you want to add anything? I was also going to respond to Rosmari's questions as well. But did you want to go ahead, Tadas, or?
Yes, I would suggest this path. I think we need 2 things to do throughout next week. We need to generate proposals to generate concrete owner permission suggestions to basically participants plus the threshold, and I would suggest proposing multiple. Then we simply vote on them, and then during the meeting we use the eden fractal process, eden plus fractal process, to pass the one that has the most votes, for example.
Okay, cool. Interesting. I think that's probably a good suggestion. Before Jorge goes, I'll just Rosmari wrote a couple questions over the past. I guess some of these were from a while ago. But well, there's one more recent one that was, how about instead of volunteering, we agree on a process such as, for example, top 6 to 8 people with most respect minus the ones not attending anymore. She said she agrees with Jorge. There's also a prior question. I don't know if this is still relevant. So we're going to vote whether we agree to come to consensus next week on the process of how to change the owner permissions. And then this will we have to agree on this meeting, from what I understood, as an action point with the current delegates being present. But then Tadas was saying that we're past that time. So yeah, I'm curious about that process. Perhaps we can all agree to that. That seems like a helpful suggestion. Tadas says he has to go. See you. Thanks, go out to Tadas. I'll pass on to Jorge, and yeah, perhaps we wrap it up. We had other topics that we could discuss.
Dan, one other thing I want to mention: this is the first time we're changing owner permissions, right?
Yes, I mean we voted to change owner permission back in week 35, and we approved a proposal. The delegates approved a proposal to change the owner permissions, but then to actually change it, I can make a proposal, but I think that Vlad needs to do a custom JSON script or something like that in order to change it.
No,
and so I was waiting for Vlad to actually change it.
My point is, if this is the first time we're doing it, we have to have it documented, because the second time it gets done, hopefully it's going to be a long time before it needs to be done, but if ever needs to be done again, they would have to be able to come back and take a look at reasoning for the first, so they can do a comparison. And we don't want to make them listen to 3 recordings of 2 hours each. They need to have a document that says this is how we made change, so they have us as a precedent.
Good point. Thanks, Noam. Yeah, and so I think Tadas' suggestion is that we work on proposals this week. We post them on Consortium, so it'll be on chain, and then we would vote on it during next week with the delegates. I encourage and request that all delegates will be in attendance next week so that we can vote on it and it all goes smoothly in that regard. And then, yeah, when we have it on Consortium, then we can show that to people like James to verify, and also everybody in the future who wants to change that. We set a good precedent, good example for changing the owner permission in the future. Thank you, Noam, very much for the suggestion. I suppose we could start wrapping it up maybe in 10 minutes or so. That's usually around the time when we stop it. But first, I see Jorge's hands up, so I'll pass it over to Jorge.
Thank you. So I'll share my screen. Here it is.
Okay.
So if you go to the Explorer and you look for our token, Eden, there it is, Eden Fractal. And there you can see our token distribution. And below, you have the list of whales in Eden. So for example, if we take the top 10, the cut will be on Pascal. If we take the top 15, the cut will be on Lisa. But people like, for example, Charles Bishop, which hasn't come here for a long time, would be excluded from being part of multi-sig, which I think is fair. So we would have this list of 15 members. So all we need to do is to remove those who don't want to be in the multi-sig. For example, Patrick. We will have Eric included. We will remove Felix. Dwayne will be included. For example, Dwayne, look at this. This is he's number 8 in overall contributions to this fractal. And today we are not giving him the possibility of being part of the multi-sig. Jesse, big contributor, but hasn't come for a long time. So I think this is a great idea to take, for example, the first 15 people or 13 people or 16 people. I think 15 is a good number. It's also a Fibonacci, if I recall correctly. No, it's not. But 13 is Fibonacci. Yeah. So we could take the first 13 and then choose from there. Okay. Frankly, I would like to have Perry because he is always pointing out at very specific, important things. So I'll choose the first 15 if I were, and Lisa, of course.
Did you see the tear dropping from my eye, Jorge?
I didn't. So that'll be like removing Patrick, Felix, and probably, well, Pascal didn't ask to be removed.
Pascal's not on the Msig right now.
But he's part of the first 15. So all the rest will be candidates.
Okay, interesting. Thanks for using the respect and showing us, Jorge. Really interesting idea. I do think, I mean, on some things it is subjective. Like for example, Gnome only joined like over the past, I guess, 4 months or 5 months or so, and Space Ranger Joe also joined more recently too. So I don't know if they've had the chance to accrue as much respect, but like I do respect them a lot too. So personally, I'd be okay. I'd be happy with them being on the Msig if they'd like to. But it also might be a good criteria and rubric just to have that simply there. We could also perhaps increase it. I know Gnome is at like 17, and some people have 2 accounts too. So that's another thing too that might want to be considered. Like I think Gnome has 2 accounts that he switched at some point. So something I want to consider. But yeah, that's a good suggestion. Maybe that's the simplest way to do it. And then, yeah, as you said, candidates. So we'd have to, maybe it's a good idea for us to tag those people who are in the top 15 or 13 or 20 or however much we say, like, for example, tagging Eric, Dwayne, Lisa, and so forth to see if they would be interested in doing it over the following week and then making that proposal. I'm also curious too if anybody wants to volunteer to make that proposal. I'm a little bit like confused about it. It seems like kind of a big project, and I see Rosmari saying she has 2 accounts here. And also Marco said maybe consider people who have contributed to weekly Msig. That's another point too. I like Marco's point about reliability and being here consistently and being able to reach. Like for example, Pascal, he hasn't been here in past, I guess, 7 weeks or so. I still see him every week at the Alien Worlds Fractal. I know his reasons and so forth, but personally, somebody like Gnome, he's usually more consistent than Pascal, so it might be better for Gnome to be on the Msig than Pascal, for example, even though Pascal has earned more respect over the entirety of the lifetime. So that's another consideration too. That might be something to consider.
I want to recuse myself because I'm right on the cusp of the 15. I'm 17, but I think if somebody wants to change things, I wouldn't want to change it because of a personal name, I think the right way to do it is either go the way Jorge did, which goes throughout the whole history, or use what Dan was suggesting to begin with, which is last 12 sessions.
I think the most coherent thing is to do it last 12, because otherwise we will be generating dependence on the thing we are exactly trying to get independent from, which is our past.
Okay, so
but making the
last
map,
12.
who are the last 12 biggest contributors? That's quite a challenge. We'll have to go through the blockchain.
Dan can do it with the spreadsheet.
Are we not deciding on this next week? Dan, you're muted.
Just realized I was muted. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we don't have to make the decision on this right now, but it is helpful to just discuss it to have clarity about what we'll propose, because before next week's meeting, we'll want to have at least one proposal that the delegates can review and that we can approve next week, so that we can get it all approved next week. Hopefully, you know, it's not like I'm happy to spend the time on this because we need to, but I would love to also focus on the more exciting stuff too, and stuff where we can move forward more so. Like, for example, the other topics I proposed with Optimism, I'd love to share with y'all, and Jitsi, I'd love to get more progress on that too. So it'd be great if we could have this approved and also respect CAC's and Patrick's requests by next week as well. So yeah, the actual decision I think we'll make next week, but in the meantime now it's just kind of like designing the best way to propose it so that we can get it approved quickly next week.
So it looks like to me like we have already a preliminary design, which would be, let's choose the highest 12 contributors or 13 contributors, which is a Fibonacci number. Let's choose the highest 13 contributors from last 13 weeks. But that will be a data to be extracted from last 13 meetings. Noam says you have a spreadsheet with that.
Yes, and I agree. That seems like a good foundation for how we can do this. I'll also share my screen briefly too to show what I have, because I worked on this spreadsheet. It needs a bit of updating. It doesn't take too long. It needs, somebody needs to go through the data that I showed before on the blockchain and do it for like, I don't know, just like the past like 6 weeks or so. What I did with Noam and Rosmari, this is actually Rosmari who took care of this, I think, when we did it previously. Which window am I on right now? I'm on this window, I suppose. So this is the Cignals spreadsheet that we used for the anniversary. We also have a more updated version that we did on the public goods pitch session week 56, but now we're in 64. So this isn't updated as of the past 8 weeks, but when we did the weekly rankings, we just went through the blockchain. I could also pull that up again wherever I saw that. When I showed Nomadas, I don't have it up right now, but if we go to the block explorer and then we go to the eden.fractal account, we can see who was ranked each place. This is what I did as of week 52. So we'll need to just continue this, but do, I guess, from the 13 weeks, which I guess is week 50 on, and then we'll just do the ranks for there. The way we do that is we go to blocks.io /account/eden.fractal, or we just type in eden.fractal up here. And then we go into the contract, and then we go to consensus, and then we type in the numbers. For example, 63 was, we'll have to, and I can volunteer to do this because I'm most familiar with this. And there's a few quirks with what I said before, how it got off, but basically I could just manually copy and paste the rankings here for week 62 or whatever this is, and week 61, and then put this onto this spreadsheet, but do a new version of it so we can get the top most respected community members over the past 13 weeks. And then we can use that basically as a guideline where we could say, okay, we could decide whether we want to have 8 or 6. If we want to do 8, then we could say, okay, well, out of those people who are the most respect over the first 13 weeks, the people who want to do it, who are volunteering to do it, who are higher in respect, have priority there. And that can be our like process and system for doing it. And that's what we can propose. And then we propose there's 2 simple options, whether we want to do 6 with a 5 of 8, or rather 8 with a 5 of 8, or a 6 of 8, or 4 or 6 with a 4 of 6, or 5 of 6. And And also on that comment too, there is, by the way, the current configuration, it has it where there's a 2-day delay on it, which counts as one person basically. So right now it's 4 to 6 people plus 2 days, or 5 to 6 people. So we can continue that. I know there was some disagreement before about whether we should have 4 to 6 or 5 out of 6 or 5 out of 8 or 6 out of 8. But that's one way that could potentially be a compromise. We have 5 of 8 people need to sign it, or 5 of 8 people sign it and 2 days go by. That also counts. So that's an option that's currently configured. But we can propose both those and people can approve either one. And I think that system that Jorge outlined and that I just kind of added to, or just explained how I can add that to the spreadsheet, I think that works. And so I'll get that spreadsheet prepared, and then hopefully we can get this proposed. And yeah, maybe we should also tag everybody else in the top 15, I suppose, of the last 13 weeks. And so I'll work on getting that spreadsheet as soon as possible and then sharing it.
Let's
and
do
then
13.
People.
Let's do 13 times 13. 13 highest people from the last 13 weeks. So we have 2 Fibonacci's there and the magic lucky number twice.
We're all freaks about Fibonacci. I love it.
Yeah.
It's our Schelling point. If you're familiar with the concept of Schelling point, it's like, might as well do this one. This is the way we'll all convene on. It works for me. I like it. Barry, you have some thoughts here? You have your hand raised?
Yeah. Just to be clear, the update that Vlad is coming up with does not include auto Msigs that promote people to owner. Is that correct? It does not include that. So
I don't know.
Even after his update, we will be manually deciding who the owners are. Is that right?
I believe that Vlad software does indeed change the owner permission, but it's configurable, so you can set that up how you want. Currently on the Alien Worlds fractal, Vlad still owns the owner key, and he gave the active permission to the community, basically with the automated Msig. And my understanding is that Vlad is planning to install or deploy the software to also change the owner key at some point, but he wanted to test out first. So I believe that the software can do it, but it has not yet been tested in the owner key permission. So maybe it wouldn't work well or something like that, but that's the intention that Vlad has, that the owner key would be also automated with this at some point. And I believe the software has that capability.
Okay, so it sounds like we may not have to do this again in the future. The system will decide for us based on our contributions. Is that a fair statement?
The system will decide for us based on our free will.
On our free will and our contributions. So if somebody
Or on
didn't get
its free will.
So if somebody didn't get included, like for example, if I didn't get included, I shouldn't feel terrible. I should feel motivated to contribute in the future if I want to be an owner on the owner end.
Yep.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah. And that's assuming that we're to, at some point in the future, choose to use the software that Vlad deployed. I know some people had some issues with it too. So if we do go with Vlad software, then that is correct, I believe.
Okay, so given that, I'm motivated to be an owner to make sure that we get to the right spot. So, otherwise, if it was kind of a given, I'd be like, well, let's just wait. No big deal, whatever.
Correct.
But so I'm motivated to be an owner in this case.
So Dan, do you think you can have this spreadsheet ready for, let's say, Wednesday, so that people have the weekend to create the proposals in Consortium?
Yeah. I mean, you said Wednesday, so Wednesday is today. Did you mean to say
Friday? Sorry.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'll have it ready by Friday. And yeah, I would appreciate Jorge or anybody else here if you could help make proposals, help design it. I do have my hands full with a lot of stuff, so I'll do my best here, but I can certainly take care of the spreadsheet. And then I'm happy to help with like the proposal and stuff. And I could perhaps make a proposal, but I appreciate it. If you want to help actually formulate the proposal, that would be appreciated.
Well, I wanted to help assigning
something I wanted to add.
Just hold on 1 second, because Jorge was responding there. So first request to Jorge, and then go back to you.
Yeah, I wanted to help assigning responsibilities and times, but my plate is already full too. So does somebody else want to nominate to create the proposal? Maybe Rosmari or Perry or Noam?
Okay, I can do it.
Great.
Okay, cool.
Or you can work in parallel with in collaboration with Perry and Noam. They usually have great ideas, so the proposal will be
I'm
really,
available.
really.
I'm available.
I'll be happy to review a draft like that and make suggestions.
Thank you, Jorge. That's a great suggestion. And Rosmari, I'm available whenever, whatever you need. For review or input, whatever you'd like.
Perry is available for whatever you need, Rosmari.
Please. Oh
Okay.
God. Oh Lord.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Perry and Noam, for offering to help. And Perry, I really appreciate your motivation to help us get in the right spot and right direction. And really love how the community is rallying around here. Thanks so much, Jorge, as well, for taking a leadership role and figuring this out for us, helping us figure this out. And Noam, you're going to say something there. So, Noam, did you want to share?
Yeah, Dan, you mentioned that a 5 out of 6, 5 out of 8 or 6 out of 8, and you add 2 days and it can be a 5. When you add 2 days, it can be a 5. It should, when you wait 2 days and then accept the lower threshold, there has to be a way to vote no. If it's only a question if 5 signed, and let's say the 6 need to know whether the other 3, if one of the other 3 objects, or if he just doesn't sign, doesn't show up, that makes a very big difference when you look at those 2 days. So if we want to have the 2 days and then accept a lower threshold, then there has to be a way to vote no, make the threshold lower. It has to be just, let's see who signed.
Yeah, I see your point. No,
That's possible in news.
Yeah, well, it's possible with other permissions other than the owner permission. So we actually did do something similar with that in week 35 in this proposal that we approved, where we had the custom permission for the rewards each week, basically, where we had that as 3 days. And then we had, it might be a little bit difficult to understand from here, basically, but there was like there's a counterbalance that we designed. Tadas came up with it, basically, where this custom permission takes 3 days, but the owner active permission take less time, so that you could configure it where if the custom permission was acting chaotically or doing something against the interest, then the active permission or owner permission could step in. But when we're dealing with the owner permission, there's no way to do that because the owner permission is just like the root core permission. So we could do that for the active or other permissions, but the owner permission, whoever has the owner permission is the ultimate owner, other than the EOS block producers.
Well, we're talking about the owner the owner permission now, and for owner permission, if we're going to reduce the threshold and take time, which is a good idea, because if 3 people suddenly disappear to get hit by a bus, we want to be able to go on. But if 5 people vote, sign it, and then 2 people object, but they don't have a way to express their objection, that's not a situation where you want to go on. Just because you have 5, if you have 5 out of 8, 5 against 2 out of 8, waiting 3 days is not a reason to have it accepted. That's not a consensus.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts. No, I'll say myself, I've been kind of concerned that we just have 4 to 6, and I've been thinking if James helps respond to something like that, then we would be able to change that. So personally, I think that 5 out of 8 is probably enough, and I feel like I might prefer that, because otherwise, if you have 6 out of 8, that might be difficult. But I think either way could work. And another thing that might be helpful to note here too is that this is just for the permissions on the eden.fractal account. So all of the data on the eden.fractal account is open source or open available, like anybody can see it. So if we ever did, I mean, the eden.fractal account, I love, it's like a nice branding, it's simple.
You're saying the two can fork if they want to?
Yeah, then they can fork. Anybody can start up any different account, and if you know how to do like the code, then you could easily just take the all the rankings that we've had from Eden Fractal and put that on a different account like that. And that's also the same with the EVM too, like with
Good point. I accept what you said. I withdraw my
Okay.
Important to think, but now that we've discussed it, I withdraw.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, Tom. And yeah, so for that reason too, I don't think it's a huge deal. Like we want to eden.fractal account is the account that we've grown up with, and it's nice, it's simple, it uses the nice features of EOS accounts, but it's not like a huge, in the worst case scenario, we can always use a different EOS account, or we can also use different accounts on different blockchains too. The data is all public, so we can always use that and fork it to a different place.
Okay.
Um,
We're so small, I wouldn't want our community to fork, but we're setting this up for the future, so this is the right way to do it.
A good point. Thank you, Gnome. I think we can probably start wrapping it up. We've been here for many of us over 3 hours. Jorge said, okay, leaving now, guys. If you want to stick around, we could do some hats. If you guys want to put some hats on and say go Eden Fractal, y'all want to do that? I feel like we have a nice tradition going on, so wouldn't want to break it here. I haven't used that that I can play, but I'll just put the hat. And yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks all. Really appreciate everyone so much. Wonderful group of people we have here. Hey, Joe. It looks like maybe Gnome and Rosmari and Perry are getting some hats on. Perry is not a bot. Never gets old. So he said, okay, I'll grab my hat. Oh, and Gnome's got a cool hat. Oh, once again, I like that. It's still traveling, I guess. Hope you're enjoying your travels, Gnome. And Jorge, I like your, yeah, it looks like a Tupperware container. It looks like you could put strawberries in there or something. Very nice.
Yeah, that's appropriate for Jorge. A food
So it
dispenser.
looks like Turkish.
It looks a little bit like
Alright,
yarmulke
guys.
too.
Yeah, you look like the Moroccan monkey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Music.
Everybody sign off. Any last words, or should we go countdown 3, 2, 1 now?
3,
You ready?
2, 1.
All right, 3, 2, 1, 0. Go Eden Fractal! Woo! Thanks, everybody. Juice. Is that what your hat says? Juice there? Thanks,
Yes.
everybody. Very cool, Juice.
Juicy.
Yeah, I
Juicy.
think I did. Juicy. There we go.
Mm.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks so much. Everybody for the great meeting. Looking forward to the next one. Same time next week.
Mhm.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
See ya. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Joe.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Joshua. Bye-bye.